that's okay. I'd already kind of anticipated that a little bit. Wasn't anticipating the light bulb went out though. So form controls, I don't expect, this is still doesn't fall into your modeling book. This is still information that are tools in Excel that are really useful. The ones you had on your quiz, those were mostly supposed to be review. They were supposed to be things you had done in the past in an intro class. This, I don't expect you've done this at all. So trust me, this is brand new to everybody. It's rather interesting. How much you use it, I don't know. It depends on later. I think it's a really good thing to know, to be able to customize your models, to be able to make them very user-friendly so that someone can interact with your model well. We don't have time throughout the semester while we're focusing on a particular type of model to always be putting form controls into it. But I think if you do this and you get this familiarity with it, later when you're producing something for real for somebody that you want to have be very interactive and be able to, for them to be able to very easily use it, then you would be able to use form controls, because that's the idea. We want our models to be organized and structured, but we want them to also be really easy for people to use, okay? And that's what form controls do for us. So they're a little bit different, and you're going to think it's a little bit tedious, but it is. But you'll get through it as long as you remember to do, every part of it. Here's the model that we're going to create. So we're going to allow a user to walk up to our screen, and from a set of cars, it's a limited set, but from a set of cars, we're going to let them pick which brand, which model, if they have a trade-in or not, if they're going to put down a down payment or not, and we have some parameters. All the parameters will be right here on the PowerPoint that we'll come back to. It'll put in the taxes, the fees. We'll let them explore different, we'll eventually, of course, get to the loan amount that they need, and we'll let them explore different interest rates and terms. And it's going to be, an interesting model that's got a lot of pieces to it, and we're going to use it to demonstrate a number of different kinds of form controls, a big variety of form controls. And so there will be the parameters. We'll just have to keep switching back to these. And these are the tasks that we're going to carry out. Combo boxes and option buttons and for different things. So I'll flip back to this and say, okay, well, what's next? What do we need to do next? And again, we may or may not get all the way through this. And I'm not super worried about that because the 10 o'clock class didn't get very far at all, waiting for the light bulb to be changed. So what we have, if you pulled up the starter file, what we have is the data that you would need right here for which cars, okay? That's it. That's all you need, because the rest of it comes from the parameters on the PowerPoint that we're going to be putting into the form controls. Here's what you need to know about this. This side of our worksheet is going to be what the user would see and what the user would interact with. And the stuff over here is what would be behind the scenes. Now, we have it all on the same screen because we're in class and we need to be able to see both parts of it at once, okay? But understand that what's over here would be stuff that would be maybe on another hidden sheet or somewhere else altogether, that the user would not be seeing this stuff over here, okay? The user would just be seeing what we're going to put in here. So that's the first thing. Form controls. Form controls are on a tab that you probably don't already have on, and it's the developer tab right here. By default, it's not typically on, okay? So if yours is not on, what you need to do is go to the File, Options. So go to File, Options, and then choose Customize the ribbon. Go to File, and then Options, and Customize the ribbon. You see all these different tabs, and for whatever reason, just by default, they don't have the developer tab on. It has some good stuff in it, but anyway, we're going to turn it on. So check that box, click OK, and your developer tab will be on. Okay, Mac users, be someone different. It's like under Preferences and something, but the thing you're trying to find, you just want to search, is the developer tab. That's what you're trying to find. Okay. The developer tab is the one that you want to have on, yeah. Did everybody, back or not back, yeah, did everybody find it and turn it on? Okay, so, the very first thing we're gonna do, following the instructions from the PowerPoint, is that we're going to use a combo box to create a drop-down list so that they can choose one of those available brands of car that they want. So these tools, yeah, there's, well, actually several places. There's one on the fourth row down and there's one back over there. Okay. So these tools are found in what looks like a little toolbox icon, here, little toolbox. And when you click on it and you see all these choices up here, there's one down there too, that row. So, when you see these, make sure whenever you click on one to put it in, because we're going to be doing a whole bunch of different kinds of them, that you use the ones on these top two rows where it says form controls. Do not use the ones, even though they look like they're the same. Do not use these ones where it says ActiveX controls. They do not work the same way. Okay, they do not work the same way. So it's these first two rows, these form controls are going to be the ones that we will be putting in. Okay. All right, so somebody came and put that chair here. One of the students. So I think he's coming back. Oh, wait a second. What? Okay. Sorry about that. The very first thing that we're going to have them do is select a brand. I have a picture for myself so that I'm putting things in the same places that you're going to see them in the finished file. There's a lot of tedious detail to what we're going to be doing. It probably will be helpful to you if yours is in the same place. And so I'm going to a lot of trouble to like look at where I put things so that I put them in the same place. So I'm going to be free and typing in some text because the combo box doesn't have text associated with it. So therefore, I'm going to type in text that tells the user what to do. Select the brand. That's just me typing in some text. I mean, I just need to, have something that tells them what they're supposed to do with this combo box, because the combo box otherwise doesn't really have that explanatory, information with it. Okay. Go to my toolbox, and the second item on the top row is the combo box. Okay, the second item on the top row is the combo box. That's the one we want. So click that, and then come down here, and I'm dragging it basically across B4 and C4. There you go. Here's my combo box. There it is. It doesn't work or do anything yet, okay? But it's there. Because what we're going to do with every one of these form controls is we're going to put it in, but then we have to define it. And we have to set up a location where we capture the user selection. Because that's the whole point of these form controls, is the user is picking something and we capture that information because we plan to do something with that information, okay? So one of the things I'm going to be doing in the behind the scenes section over here on the right side is labeling areas where I can put, where I'll be able to put the capture of the selection that the user made. Okay, so that I will end up, I put a little label here beside it, and in 11, I put brand. I will later be capturing what they do in 011, so that it's obvious that that's what I'm capturing there. All right, but for every one of these form controls, it's one thing just to draw it and put it in, and you can see it, but they have to be defined. They have to be set up. And so I'm going to right-click on this one, and when I do, one of my options is this one at the very bottom that says Format Control. Format it. Format this control. Define this control. Set this control up. That's what that's doing. there's a whole bunch of different kinds of controls. So when I click on this, you'll see the things that go with this particular type of control. Some of them have more things to set than other ones, okay? This particular, oh, and I will tell you, all of them have a bunch of stuff that you could do. We're not going that deep. You're gonna think we're doing plenty by the time we're done with this. We will not go into those other tabs and look at any of those. We will only do what's on the control tab, which are the basics which make it work. Okay, that'll be all we're doing, is working with the basics that make this work. Okay. All right, so what does this one need to work? Well, one of the things that this type of a form control needs is an input range, because the idea, you probably already know this, of this little button, is it's gonna drop down your choices and let you choose things from it. So it needs to know where are those choices located. Okay, so right here on this input range, I'm gonna select N5 to N9, because those are my different brands. They have 5 brands they can choose from. So I put that, I select that, put it here. So that's one thing that a combo box needs. Every single one of them will need a cell link, and here's what it means by cell link. Where do you want me to put the user selection? Well, remember, I set that up on purpose so I could put the user selection right there. Okay. So the place I'm putting the user selection is 011 for me. If you're staying with these, it's probably be easier if you're putting everything in the same places, and this actually will match the finished file. Now, when it says drop-down lines, I think 8 is just the default that it puts in. And I think there probably would be a problem with that. If we only have 5 things, I'm gonna go ahead and just change it to 5, because I know I only have 5 things. So I don't need more than 5 rows. So that's it. That is defining this, okay? The list comes from a range found in N5 to N9. I will capture what they select right there in 011, and I'm gonna make it have 5 lines of drop down. Click OK. I'm gonna move off of this thing for a minute. And this thing now works. You go click on your arrow. Fixing this box is one of the things I could do on those other tabs, but I'm not gonna do that right now. But anyway, there are my choices. But watch when I pick one of these. If I picked Honda, for instance, you might have been thinking that over here it was gonna say Honda, and it doesn't. It says 2, because Honda is
Number 2.
the second one in the list. Yeah, so it's actually showing me here the numeric location of it in the range. That's gonna be helpful in a few minutes. Okay? So if I said Nissan 4, if I say 4, 5, so you can see what it's doing here. It's capturing the location of that choice, not the text of that choice. Okay. Now, if you were really creating this for a user, when you go to have them select a model, you'd probably set up the exact same thing you just did to have them select a brand, because it would be consistent and it would make sense. But our purposes for this model are to show you variety, to show you all kinds of different functions. So I'm going to show you a completely different kind of form control that we could use to do to get the model. And if you look over here, it'll tell you exactly what to do. Use 3 option buttons inside of a group box to be able to select the model. Okay, so that's what we're following when we do this. Okay, gotta put the group box in first. You know what, before I do that, go over here right under brand and type model, because you already know that every single form control has to have a place for you to capture the selection, right? So let's just go ahead and get that out of the way. I know that I will need a place for this to be captured, okay? So let's just go ahead and put that word in there. All right, in the toolbox. The second row, first one, is a group box. Make this group box, make sure it's large enough. For mine, but I saw somebody's laptop and they really had to work with this, and for my last class. One of the problems with putting these option buttons inside these group boxes is that if in any way later, any of these things as you're putting them in overlap, this will not work properly, okay? So you have to be very aware of how you're putting this in and making enough space for yourself. I'm taking this, did I click on it? I'm taking this from row 6 through row 11, B and C. Barely, a little bit more than that. Now, the reason on this one that I didn't put a little text phrase up there that says select the model is because group boxes do have text, okay? So they already do have text. I'm just gonna modify that text. I can right click on it and say edit the text, or I can click around enough times till I get in there, which I sometimes do that too. But this is where I'm gonna say select the model. That's where I'm gonna say select the model. So again, some of the form controls have locations for text and some don't. This is a group box that's gonna serve a purpose for us. Because what we're about to put inside of it are option buttons. Option buttons are the round buttons. We used to call them radio buttons, but anyway, radios like that anymore, I don't know. But those option buttons, if you're familiar with how they work, they're mutually exclusive. Whenever you see round choices, you can't say like, oh, I want this one and this one. No, you can't say that. You can have one and only one out of it. So we're gonna take and put them in this group box so that Excel understands that there are 3 choices, but a user can only have one of those 3 choices. That's why it's going in the group box together. Okay. So when I go up here to get the button, the option button, which is the last item on the first row, I'm going to be very aware of the fact that I need to get 3 of these into this box. And so I'm going to start the first one maybe right up here. I'm going to go grab another one. I am not going to overlap the previous one or the box. That there. I'm going to go grab another one and not overlap the box or the one I just put in. They're all in here. And I'm very serious about being careful about the overlapping, because what will happen if they overlap in any way, you'll notice that they will not do what they're supposed to do, which is only allow you to select one of them. Well, we've got a lot of cleanup-y stuff or things to do, because we don't necessarily want this to say option button 3, option button 4, option button 5. We want it to say what it is. So I'm going to go into every one of these and edit their text. Okay, so I'm going to right click to edit the text. And the first one, of course, is the base model. The second one is mid-priced model. Third one is the premium model. I'm typing on this today. Okay. Okay. So I put the box in. I edited the text. I put 3 option buttons in. I edited the text for each one of those. Previously, I had put a little label over here so that when I actually go to define this, because I haven't even defined this yet. Yeah, I haven't defined this format. I haven't formatted this control. Defined this control. Because they're in a group box together, I only have to do this one time. I don't have to do them individually. I just go in, and when I right click, just like I did on the combo box, which was a standalone thing, but anyway, I just say format this control. It's going to take care of all of it, okay? It's going to do everything. Now, an option button doesn't have a lot of things you have to set. You know, in the combo box, we had to tell it what's the range that has all these items we want a person to be able to choose from. An option option button is like, it's either on or it's off. That's pretty much all there is to it. It's either on or it's off. There you go. Nothing much to set. But every form control will have a cell link. Because in every form control, you have to capture that, is it on or is it off? You have to capture that somewhere. So my cell link is gonna be over here in O12. Okay, so that's the main thing I have to do here, is just link this output to that cell right there. And when I click OK, it does. But here's what you'll notice, and I haven't used this yet, but as soon as I do start using it, and I put base model, if I changed my mind for mid-priced, it turns the other one off. That's how option buttons work. These have been grouped in such a way that Excel recognizes them as things that are mutually exclusive choices. I should do premium. Okay. So, if any of you right now are clicking on these and you find that it's possible for two of them to be on at the same time, okay, and that occurs as a result of things overlapping. The box is either overlapping the options with each other or the box itself or anything. And I'm not talking about if you put it in and it overlapped and then you moved it up so it wasn't, too late. Too late. It already overlapped. It's already gonna mess up on you. Here is the solution to that problem. Delete them all. Delete all three of them and put them back in again. I would like to tell you that that's not the case. You cannot move it. That does not work. Okay, just moving it inside the box, if it once overlapped, doesn't fix the problem. Okay, so delete them and carefully start over. If you need to put one in and make it a little smaller, put another one in and make it a little smaller. We had to do that for my student in the last class. That student had to do that because his were real big and we just couldn't even get them in. So we had to shrink them down. Each time we put one in, we had to shrink them down to be able to get all three inside the box. After you have it, you can't uncheck it here. Like one of them will always be unchecked.
Oh,
Okay. But this ties into what I'm going to say next. So hold that thought for just a second. I was totally focused on this and this working well, and I didn't even show you that right there. Look what it was capturing. Again, it was capturing the numeric location. So when I said base model, number 1 came up. When I said mid-price, a 2 came up. So it was capturing the numeric location. And that numeric location has everything to do with how you put them in there. If you put in this one, and then you put in an option here, you realize you had space in between, and you put it there, that would have been 1, 2, and 3. I'll just tell you, I mean, that's how that works. It's how you put them in, okay? So, if you wanted to get rid of it, so this will answer your question, you actually can go over here and, I'll just do it this way, and clear that out if you want to. Okay. So I can clear that and turn that off, or I can go back into the form control and uncheck it there. This is faster and easier. So I can undo these things. I can get rid of things like that. But once I select them, something's kind of always going to be there, you know, once I select it. If I want to get rid of those selections, which I'm actually going to do in a minute, I would come over here. There's other places you could do it, but I would come over here and clear these, and that would get rid of them. Did that answer the question about how to uncheck it? Yeah, because that's the only way, because once you do one, it just, you know, it's like one always has to be checked. In this case, they're not really checked. Selected is a better word for this, because they're not check boxes. Okay, so here's the great thing about how we just captured this information. We just captured the brand, its numeric location, the model, its numeric location. We could get the sales price by using what function? What function gives you a value based on knowing the location of what you're looking for?
VLOOKUP?
No, VLOOKUP uses values to give you other values. Which one looks for location to give you a value? Index. Index looks for location to give you a value. Which is exactly what we have here. Brand, number 2, that's a Honda, okay? Model, number 2, that's mid-price. $24,695, that's the price. But we want to show the user this. We want the user to be able to see this price. So I do a bunch of things to make stuff look good, because I'm like that. If I can type right. But I'm gonna go over into E7 and type in the word sales price. You know, you have to do all kinds of other little formatting along the way, it's not important. Yes.
How do you get the select the model to output over to model? Like the two, how do you?
So when I right click on this and say format the control, that link cell is telling it where to put it. So when you right click and you do format the control, that cell tells it exactly where to put the output, which is here. Okay. I am going to do something with cells E8 and E9. I'm going to merge them. I'm going to do this on the home ribbon if you want to do this. I'm going to merge them. You don't have to. I'm going to put a dark border box around them. I want it to stand out. Okay. All of that is just simply aesthetics. Okay, that's all that is. But in that cell, I am going to use an index function so that the user can see the sales price of the vehicle they just selected. Okay, so I'm going to do index. Well, the array are those values right there, right? The row, it's the brand. Right there. In L11. The column is the model. That's it. Go there, row 2, column 2, and return 24,695. I'm gonna clean this up because watch it. 24,695. And what can the user do? Say, oh, I can't afford that. I'll go with the base model. Okay. I can afford more. I'll go with the premium model. I'd rather have a Ford. I'll go with taking, obviously, the result is being displayed with them whatever combination, because this is capturing the numeric row, which is the brand. This is capturing the numeric column. That's the model. And boom, you're getting the sales price. Is this working? Are both form controls working for you? The combo box and the group box, and are you getting the sales price with the index? Everybody's good? Yes.
What did you format the box to be again? Was it currency or?
I did currency and took the decimal places away. That's what I did. Because I like the one where the dollar sign is right up next to it in in an individual box like this. Yes. Yes, sorry, I should. Well, you can't see it, can you? Because it's the O, you can see it's selecting, you can't see because it's running off the screen, but it's selecting that range, comma, the brand, comma, the model, row column. Okay. Yes.
The index formula, the last part is the area number.
So, when you bring the tooltip up, okay, I can say all that, for index, what you see are 2 rows here, and when we did that index, the last thing we did practically before the quiz, okay, last Thursday, when you have a 1-dimensional or 2-dimensional array, you are using just this. It's when you have multiple 2-dimensional arrays, like we did with that shipping example, most preferred customers, basic customers, that's when you use this. Okay, so this was just gonna be the array, the row number, the column number. Yeah. Okay, let's say we wanted to set this up so that when the user walks up to it, they're not influenced by the choice of the previous user, right? Oh, now they want a mid-price Ford. You know, we don't want that. We want, you know, we're doing a little survey here. Anyway, we want to really see what people would do. We've got to clear this out. And so we set something up that we cleared out, a little macro, which we're not going to do right now. But I'm going to show you quickly how to clear this out. If I delete brand and model out of those cells over there, it clears them here. But here's the problem, when it clears it there, it puts an error message here. There's nothing wrong with that formula, is there? We already know that formula works, we already played around with it, we know the formula is perfectly fine. The formula cannot give us an answer because there are no values in those two cells. So it's not that this is a broken formula and I need to fix the formula, it's that as the data currently stands, it's not possible for this to work, properly. Sometimes that happens in worksheets for all kinds of reasons, so I think this is what we're going about to show you next. It's just useful to know in general, okay? We can set up a what to do instead. Like if a perfectly correct formula will display an error under certain conditions, we can set it up to say, you know what, if this would display an error, display something else instead, okay? If in this particular case, if this index would display an error, let's do something else instead. The function is called if error. In other words, if this would be an error, don't do this, do something else, okay? So I'm gonna go over here in front of the I in index and type in the function if error. Well, I'll just spell it right. Okay. So, this is saying, if this perfectly good index function displays an error, do this instead. Go over to the end, put a comma, and then what do I want it to say instead? I'm gonna have it say 0. I'm just gonna have it put a 0 in there for other reasons that we're gonna be working on later. So if that index function would be an error, then put a 0 in instead. So in my last class asked this question, and it is a valid question. Could it have just said something like, select a brand and model? It certainly could have. You could have put text in there, you put it in quotation marks, please select a brand and model, okay? And then it would have basically told them that's what they needed to do. Okay, so for me, that just displays a 0 right now. We're gonna come back to that later, but that just displays a 0 until somebody goes in and says, oh, I want a Toyota mid-priced. So, and then of course the sales price comes up because now it has values and the index function works. But you don't want a user walking up, just because you wanted to clear out the previous selections, you don't want them walking up and seeing an error message. That doesn't look good. That doesn't look right. We want to clean things up a little more than that. Okay, so far so good, right? There's so much to this. So let's go over to PowerPoint and see what we're supposed to do next. I did this already. So do the sales price using an index function. Next, we're going to let them use checkboxes. Here's one we haven't used yet. We're to checkboxes to select if they're going to have a trade-in and or, if they're going to put down a down payment. Okay, and that don't worry about the rest of that. We'll clean it up later. But that'll say whether they're using these two things. Are you doing a trade-in or not? Are you going to